Days turned into weeks, and the Vraks did not return. Agnes continued her daily routines, but she remained vigilant. She had been through enough conflicts to know that threats never disappeared. They just waited for the right moment to strike again. One morning, as the sun crested the horizon, she noticed an unfamiliar sound in the distance. It was a low hum, barely perceptible at first, but growing louder with each passing moment. She grabbed her binoculars and scanned the horizon. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw a fleet of Vrak ships heading straight for her valley. "Here we go," she muttered to herself, her eyes narrowing. She ran inside and began preparing. Years of experience had taught her to always be ready for a fight. She set up traps around her property, hidden explosives under the loose soil, and even rigged a few old satellite dishes to act as makeshift amps if she had no intention of going down without a fight. Within minutes, the Vrak ships landed and dozens of heavily armored warriors poured out. They formed ranks, marching towards her cabin with weapons raised. At the front was a new leader, taller and more imposing than the first. This one looked like it meant business. The leader raised a metallic arm, and a booming voice echoed across the valley. "Human, you have defied the Vrak's empire. Surrender now, or face destruction." Agnes stepped out on her porch, her shotgun slung casually over her shoulder. "Is that what they told you to say?" she called back. "Sounds like they've been rehearsing that line for weeks." The leader's eyes narrowed. "This is your final warning. Surrender or be destroyed." Agnes chuckled. "You know, you guys talk a big game, but I'm not impressed. You want me, come and get me." The Vrak's leader roared, and the soldiers began to advance. But as soon as they stepped onto her property, the ground erupted in a series of explosions. Several Vrak soldiers were thrown into the air, their bodies crashing to the ground in smoking heaps. The leader barked orders, and the remaining troops hesitated, unsure of what to do. Agnes smiled. "What's the matter? Didn't expect an old lady to put up a fight?" The leader snarled and pointed a finger at her. "Destroy her." The Vrak soldiers opened fire, their energy weapons blazing. But Agnes was ready. She dove behind a reinforced barricade she had built, pulling a lever that triggered the satellite dishes. A wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed outwards, frying the electronics in the Vrak's weapons. The soldiers looked down in shock as their guns powered down, rendered useless. Agnes popped up from behind her cover, her shotgun aimed squarely at the leader. "Looks like you brought the wrong toys to this party, sweetheart." She fired, and the leader staggered back, a chunk of its armor blown away. It roared in fury, lunging forward with a large serrated blade. Agnes ducked under its swing and kicked it in the chest, sending it stumbling back. She quickly followed up with a few more shots, driving the leader further back. The Vrak soldiers, seeing their leader in trouble, charged forward, but Agnes was ready for them. She had rigged several traps around her cabin, and as the soldiers advanced, they triggered them one by one. Explosions and bursts of shrapnel filled the air, cutting through the Vrak's ranks. The ground was littered with their fallen bodies. The leader, bleeding and enraged, charged at her once more, but Agnes sidestepped its attack and swung her shotgun like a club, smashing it across the face. The leader fell to the ground, dazed and disoriented. Agnes stood over it, her shotgun aimed at its head. "Last chance, big guy. Leave or I put you down." The leader stared up at her, its expression a mix of hatred and fear. Finally, it nodded. "We will return," it hissed through gritted teeth. Agnes smiled. "I'll be waiting." 2 days later, as Agnes was repairing the damage to her cabin, she heard the faint sound of an engine in the distance. She looked up and saw a small shuttle approaching. This one was different, sleeker, more advanced, and not of Vrak's origin. She grabbed her binoculars and peered through them, trying to get a better look. The shuttle landed gently in the clearing, and out stepped a single figure, tall and slender, wearing a suit of armor that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. The figure raised a hand in a peaceful gesture and slowly approached. Agnes kept her shotgun trained on the newcomer. "That's close enough," she called out. "State your business." The figure stopped and removed its helmet, revealing a humanoid face with sharp features and piercing green eyes. "I mean you no harm," the stranger said in a calm, measured voice. "My name is Aller. I am an envoy from the Coalition of Worlds. I have come to speak with you." Agnes lowered her shotgun slightly but remained cautious. "Speak? About what?" Aller smiled. "About the Vraks. They have been a menace to our galaxy for decades, and we have been searching for a way to stop them. Your actions against them have not gone unnoticed." Agnes raised an eyebrow. "Oh, and what's that got to do with me? We believe you could be of great help to us," Aller replied. "You have shown incredible resilience and resourcefulness in the face of their aggression. We could use someone like you to help us fight back." Agnes considered this for a moment. "And what makes you think I'd want to join your little coalition?" Aller's smile widened. because you've already proven you won't back down, even when faced with overwhelming odds. And because you know that the Vrax won't stop coming. They'll keep sending more forces until they've conquered this planet. Agnes nodded slowly. Fair point, but I don't work for free, you know. Aller laughed softly. Of course, we're prepared to offer you any resources you need. Weapons, technology, support, whatever it takes to make sure the Vrax are defeated. Agnes thought for a moment, then shrugged. All right, I'm in, but I'm not taking orders from anyone. I do things my way or not at all. Eller nodded. Agreed, we wouldn't have it any other way. The two shook hands and Agnes couldn't help but smile. For the first time in years, she showed a spark of excitement. She had found a new fight, and this time, she wasn't fighting alone. Hashtag ***** part 5. Preparing for the storm ****. Over the next few weeks, Aller and Agnes worked together, preparing for the inevitable return of the Vrax. They set up a network of sensors around the valley, established communication links with the Coalition's forces, and fortified Agnes's cabin into a veritable fortress. Aller introduced Agnes to advanced weaponry and technology she had never seen before. At first, she was skeptical, preferring the reliability of her old shotgun and homemade traps. But as she learned more about the new tools at her disposal, she began to see their potential. They trained together, sharing knowledge and techniques. Eller was impressed by Agnes's skills and adaptability. You're a natural, he remarked one day as they tested a new plasma rifle. Agnes grinned. Well, I've been doing this a long time. You learned a few tricks along the way. But as they prepared, they knew that time was running short. The Vrax would not forget their defeat, and they would return in greater numbers with more advanced weaponry and a stronger resolve. One evening, as they sat by a campfire, Aller turned to Agnes. You know, you don't have to do this alone. We can evacuate you to a safer location, provide protection. Agnes cut him off with a laugh. Evacuate? After all this? Not a chance. I've got too much invested here. Besides, I've grown fond of this place. Aller nodded, understanding. Very well. Then we fight. Agnes smiled. Damn right we do. And when they come, we'll be ready. A week later, the valley erupted in a flurry of activity. The Vrax had returned, and this time they brought an armada. Dozens of ships filled the sky, their dark silhouettes blotting out the sun. Agnes and Eller watched from their fortified position as the Vrax troops disembarked, marching in perfect formation. The Vrax commander, larger and more menacing than the previous ones, stepped forward and raised its arms. Human, you have resisted long enough. Today we end this. Agnes smiled and whispered to Aller, let's give them a show they won't forget. Eller nodded and activated the defense systems they had rigged. The valley came alive with traps, turrets, and energy shields. The Vrax hesitated, uncertain of how to proceed. Then with a roar, the commander ordered a full assault. Agnes and Eller fought side by side, their weapons blazing. The Coalition forces provided support from above, strafing the Vrax ranks with precise laser fire. The battle was intense, and the ground shook with the force of explosions. But Agnes and Eller held their ground, refusing to give an inch. They moved like a well-oiled machine, covering each other, picking off Vrax soldiers one by one. After hours of relentless fighting, the Vrax forces began to falter. Their ranks thinned, and their commander grew desperate. Retreat, it finally bellowed, and the remaining Vrax soldiers scrambled back to their ships. Agnes watched them go, breathing heavily. She turned to Eller with a grin. That was fun. Eller laughed. I think they'll think twice before coming back. Agnes nodded, wiping the sweat from her brow. Let's hope so, but if they do, we'll be ready. Hashtag ***** part 7. The New Alliance *****. In the days that followed, Agnes and Aller continued to strengthen their position. The Coalition forces began to arrive in greater numbers, establishing a base of operations in the valley. They were preparing not just for defense, but for a counterattack to take the fight to the Vrax once and for all. Agnes stood on a hill, overlooking the valley, watching as the Coalition troops set up camp. Eller joined her, his expression thoughtful. You know, Agnes, you've done something remarkable here. You've united people, humans and aliens, against a common threat. That's no small feat. Agnes shrugged. I just did what needed to be done. And I'm not done yet. Aller nodded. No, you're not. And with you on our side, I think we have a real chance. Agnes smiled. Then let's get to work. We've got a war to win. The two of them turned back towards the camp, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battle was far from over, but they were ready, and for the first time in years, Agnes felt truly alive. But this continuation expands the story with new characters, an evolving conflict, and additional scenes to build upon the initial narrative. The focus remains on human ingenuity, resilience, and the power of unexpected alliances in the face of overwhelming odds.